This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back to another episode of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungee here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. I am your host, Tyler Fornes, and with me, as always, is Fred Moreland. And Fred, guess what? We get to watch another scramble match.
Goody. You ever see the movie A Clockwork Orange?
You know what? That has actually not been a movie I've seen. I've wanted to see it for some time, but I have this thing with movies where all of a sudden, I really want to see a movie. Like, I really wanted to see Cocaine Bear, but the wife wasn't feeling good. So I'm like, okay, the day we were going to go see it. All right, we'll see it later. Well, I still haven't seen it. I do that with a lot of movies, and Clockwork Orange is one of them.
As I get the Hungee Cat running in record time.
Not even a minute into the show. Just impressive. Yeah.
She just it's not putting up with my shit.
She reminds me of Switchblade Jay White.
That's right. They ain't got time to waste. I appreciate the efficiency. So in the Clockwork Orange, at some point, a character is put in this device where, like, his eyes are forced open. You've probably, I imagine, a lot of people have at least seen references to this, and I feel like that was me with WrestleMania weekend, because not only did I try to watch all the key stuff at least, but I also had to get it done in Monday through Wednesday, because I was largely out of town last week, and I watched so much wrestling this week. I am tired of wrestling. I can't remember the last time I could say that. I'm just real tired of wrestling.
Well, especially with some of the stuff we got on WrestleMania weekend. Let's say it wasn't the peak days of WrestleMania weekend when Gabe Sapolsky was running the collective. There was good stuff.
There was good stuff. I tried to only watch the good stuff too, so I'm complaining about that. I mean, I'm such a loser over here. It's like, I gotta watch good wrestling a lot.
I missed a couple matches on the first DDT show. DDT Goes Hollywood, and I'm like, okay, let's give the Chris Brooks Yoshihiko tag match a shot. I got 4 minutes in. I'm like, okay, I can't watch Mao with Yoshihiko. I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry. We'll talk about Mao later, but it lost me. I'm like, okay, I'm just done with WrestleMania weekend. I didn't have a login for a high spot, so I did not watch the collective or the Mark Hitchcock Memorial show. Yeah. But I watched a lot of the collective stuff. Thank God for Fight Plus saving us literally over $100.
Oh, yeah. We'll see how long this lasts, but
what an atrocious business move by Fight.
We got to get while the getting's good.
We got while the getting is good. Because of that, I was able to watch a lot of stuff, and my overall opinion of WrestleMania weekend as it currently stands is they could be doing a much better job booking with the talent they have, because the talent they have isn't bad. Why is Brian Keith only there for 2 matches? Why is Black Taurus only in a couple? And one of them is a 3-way. We understand why he's in that 3-way. He's a perfect base for Commander Vikingo. But they have so much talent at their disposal, but I'm still seeing Dark Sheik like 6 times. Like, what are we doing here?
I didn't review any shows this year because, again, I was traveling a lot last week. But Griffin Peltier apparently reviewed like everything. Going back to the Clockwork Orange.
In the words of Nick Gage, Griffin is the god of this shit.
Yeah, no kidding. That guy's a machine. It's frightening how much he watched this week. But I think last year I reviewed last year's For the Culture, and like that's a show in particular where it should be a complete banger. Like just the talent they're able to get access to for that show, and like the theming of it and all. Like every match on that should be at least good, and like the booking on it is not. It just handicaps it so much that it's disappointing, and this year's was apparently not any different, which is a real damn shame.
Who booked it this year? Do you remember?
I don't even know. I don't think that like it wasn't even like a name show this year, so there's not even a public facing one. I assume it's just whoever does GCW's booking. I don't know if that's all like what Lauderdale or who, but yeah, like I mean, I will pull up that card real quick on the old cage match.
The card was definitely not as impressive as it has been in years past, but I think Leo Rush pulled out of that show.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
And he was one of the better acts on the card.
So here is the talent they had, or just choices from it. Of course, we had a 7-person scramble because
got to have a scramble match.
GCW, please, I'm begging you, open. I challenge you to open one show, any show. I don't care if it's GCW, JCW, Bloodsport doesn't count. I'm only shocked that we haven't seen a Bloodsport scramble yet.
DDT Goes Hollywood was Chris Brooks and Yoshihiko versus Mao, and I can't remember his partner, but it's that tag team that's like 37 something. Like I can't remember how it's pronounced, but that was the opener for that show. So it was not a scramble.
That was a GCW, or I'm sorry, a DDT show, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
GCW versus DDT opened with not a scramble, but an 8-man tag. So I guess that I should give some credit where credit is due. Please just open any non-Bloodsport show with a one-on-one match. I'm begging you, for my children that I don't have.
For the Hungee cat and Odie.
For the Hungee cat. You heard her scream for a one-on-one match, and just think of the cat. Why? How do you want to talk about this? Because there was approximately 1 zillion shows. I didn't watch everything, thank God. I only watched like stuff that people said should be watched, and with a pretty reasonably lenient threshold for that.
Well, let's do this. You have the For the Culture lineup pulled up. Let's talk about like the general like talent on the show.
Sure.
And then let's get your overall thoughts about WrestleMania weekend as a whole, because one of my biggest frustrations was like 3 of the best shows of the weekend were all going on at the same time.
This is at least the second year in a row they did that, and they've got to stop.
Yeah, like, come on, man. We don't need like 3 of the best shows of the weekend going on at the same freaking time.
Like, okay, at this point, we know when Super Card of Honor is always going to be, which is Friday night. Don't put anything important on Friday night. Put your emo fight or Degeneration F there. I'm probably talking out of my ass here. What did they have at that slot? Opposing Super Card of Honor. Was that the Super Show? My brain wants to say it's the Super Show.
I think Super Show Thursday or Friday.
That's
I'm pulling up on voicesofwrestling.com.
Okay, so I got it here. Opposite, at least in part, of Super Card of Honor, at least for like 1 hour, was let's see, DDT versus GCW. As No Peace Underground.
Well, Thursday it was Bloodsport, Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show. Those were both going on at the same time. Then you had a multitude of Circle 6. Like DDT Goes Hollywood started at 10 Central Time, which that was fun. I enjoyed most of that show. But that was going on at the same time as New Japan and Impact, which I thought was a really weird placement. Yeah, it just multiple times throughout the weekend, and obviously you're not going to have perfect, but I mean, come on, we can do better than that. Like Super Card of Honor, Prestige was a good show. Like, I don't know. I really just thought that they could have structured the timing of some of this better.
Yeah, it was frustrating at points for sure. But I didn't deal with that because I watched it all after the fact. So whatever.
Yeah, you suck. So
yeah, I'm not. I shouldn't even be complaining here. They had. Now wait. Let me look at this because this does
is
not
fantastic audio.
Yes, we're fantastic. This is great. All right, so for the culture, I mean, you had talents like Darius Carter, Faye Jackson, Willie Mack, AC Mack, Shug D, Kenny King, Brian Keith, Calvin Takeman, Kevin Knight, Man Like DeReese, Trish Adora, and Myron Reed. And you end up with like one match over 6.5 on Cage Match.
How?
With that, I mean, like that's
embarrassing.
That's a low number too. Like, now I will put over. They did have the Black Wrestlers Matter Championship presented out of Iowa, apparently, between Myron Reed, Man Like DeReese, and Kevin Knight, and that was a nice little match. It didn't make my top 10. Didn't really get close to it, but it was a good match, and that's the one I watched off this card. But like, this should be an absolute great match, or great show. But you've got like AC Mack, Shug D, and Kenny King hidden away in like a 10-man Survivor Series tag match. And also, you don't need on these shows to be doing a Survivor Series tag match. You're working in 7 eliminations in 21 minutes. I mean, that ain't great. And, you're hiding away some of your great talent in the Scramble, which goes 8 minutes. 7 guys, 8 minutes.
Hey, everybody gets one spot.
I'm begging you, please use TEW like once in a while, just for practice.
Yeah. All right, so we got that. Some whatchamacallit, you got some questions on booking. Now let's talk about our top 10s because I think outside of the disaster that is WWE, and
love a list.
Not belting up Cody Rhodes. Tony Khan must have just been laughing his ass off when he saw that finish. Let's ignore that because WWE is its own little shithole, and we want to talk about actual good wrestling, which we'll actually talk about some good WWE wrestling.
Which we will. Like, this is not the week to bury their match quality. I will say that they had themselves a good week in terms of in-ring. Now,
they blew it in a 24-hour period from Cody losing through Monday Night Raw.
Listen, when you get an hour free of commercial on TV, you absolutely have to keep the minutes of wrestling under 2. I mean, that's so well known. That goes back to Mid-South, as we all know. Okay, how you want to start with 10? You want to swap going from 10 on up? And
yeah. I'll start. My 10th best match of the weekend was from WrestleMania Night 1, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. I loved this match. I thought it was a mistake at the time, and I'm not going to give WWE credit for this because there is no fucking way that they actually booked it this way.
Oh, there's no planning over 3 years.
No. Giving Rhea Ripley the win over Charlotte Flair in a empty warehouse WrestleMania would have in theory, like, in hindsight, it would have been a mistake. Where we're at now, she gets a big win in a huge spot against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania to win the women's championship. I thought it was great. They beat the piss out of each other. Rhea was dropping Charlotte on her head. This felt like a match you would have seen in Japan. They were just beating each other to a pulp. This was awesome.
This was the women's Big E Invitational or Big E offer match. Just the equivalent of meaty men slapping meat for the women. This is how Charlotte's good matches are these days. Like, either it's a bad match or else they're just killing each other. And at least we got the good version of Charlotte at this point. You could even say we had good Charlotte. But I'm just going to reference.
I'm more of a Sum 41 Blink 182 fan myself, but
there it is. There it is. But yeah, I like this match a lot too. You will see it later down my list. My number 10 was from Supercard of Honor, Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe. I thought this was a really nicely structured match. These two guys really sold the emotion of it. And, they're both getting up there, especially Joe. I think Joe's like not far from the end, sadly, but
He can still go.
He can still go, but like I think that it's far more limited than it was in his heyday.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look, he's like, what, 38 at this point? How old is Samoa Joe is roughly my age, and he can definitely work better than me. 44, damn. Older than I thought. Yeah, he's still great to have around, and this was a good match. I liked it a lot. It was my my best of the 4 quarters, I guess, and yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that match. I thought, and we talked about it last week when we previewed Supercard of Honor, that if Mark Briscoe doesn't win here, that means he's winning the big boy belt. And I think it's going to be one of two places. It's going to be at Final Battle, the anniversary of the last ROH match that the Briscoe brothers had, or it's going to be at WrestleMania weekend next year in Philadelphia, which is going to be really close to Sandy Fork, Delaware. Obviously, WrestleMania crowds are traditionally travel crowds, but ROH ran Philadelphia in the area a lot. So I think you're probably going to get a lot more homegrown style ROH fans at that show. So that's kind of where I'm at. I almost put this on my list because I really enjoyed it too. His kids, you could hear them in the hard cam.
Yeah.
Like, that was a great unintentional touch.
Yeah, it was nice. It was, got to get the kids working. You know, they are former champions, as we saw in the Ring of Honor Wrestle Buddies commercial. And solid match. Very good.
It was awesome. My number 9 was also from Supercard of Honor. Wheeler Yuta versus Katsuyori Shibata. Listen, Shibata cannot do the Okada match again. I really don't think we're ever going to see that. I don't think
for many reasons.
I really don't think anybody wants to see that because they want to see an alive Shibata. Yes. New Japan's not booking him in matches, but this is perfect for him. The Pure Division, where you can focus on grappling, where you can focus on like just chops and kicks, and you don't have to do a bunch of head drops to really have a great style match because there's not that expectation going in. I think this is perfect for him. I think it's awesome that he won the belt. It clears up Yuta for a lot of the BCC stuff because, let's be honest, he's going to be the pin eater of that group because they don't really have one. So you don't want the ROH Pure Champion losing. I just thought it was really well done all around. And Shibata winning, I thought was a really nice touch, especially for a travel crowd, because they're going to be more invested in a Shibata than they are going to be in another, like a homegrown style wrestler.
Yeah, and if Shibata is healthy enough to work once in a while for them, and apparently he was on the Ring of Honor tapings this week, I mean, you got to do it. I mean, just an amazing talent to have on hand. I did not put this in my top 10, but it was good. I liked it quite a bit. I went 3 3/4, so like on my recommendation list, but not like the top of it. So
yeah. Well, what was your number 9?
My number 9 was Steve Jericho against the Usos from WrestleMania Saturday. I'm happy to complain about the fact that this is what Sami Zayn ended up with after as hot as he was just a month ago and everything. But this was a really well-worked match. The crowd was super into it. I mean, it was super over with the crowd. And it was really well-worked. I enjoyed it a lot. And, I mean, it would not surprise me if that was the best tag team match in WrestleMania history.
And that's not exactly a high bar either. I almost put this on my list. I really enjoyed it. But I just thought, like, the problem with WWE Epics to me is there's too much downtime. There's too much wait. They build the drama way too much. And I don't mean that in a good way. But it was very well done. They got the moment. And well done. Like, they actually somewhat paid off Sami Zayn. They could have done it better, like everything WWE, but it is what it is. My number 8 match, Supercard of Honor, the Reach for the Sky Boy ladder match, the Jay Briscoe and Mark Briscoe kind of memorial to pass on a new rendition of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships with the Briscoes on the little side plates, which I thought was a nice touch. Everybody's going to remember this match for Dante Martin getting the Sid injury and snapping his leg. But this match was great. Aussie Open was just doing some bonkers stuff and then ended up flying back to Japan for a Road to show. Like, that was tremendous. And then you had some awesome stuff. The Kingdom. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett were taking some psycho bumps. These guys,
they're working their asses off hard.
They worked so hard. And you know what? I thought that it was going to probably be the Kingdom that ended up winning the match because they were ROH homegrown dudes. But they went with the Lucha Brothers, which I thought was a little bit of a surprise. But overall, this was great. You could tell Penta was really distraught at the fact that Dante got hurt. They just over-rotated that Destroyer through the table. And stuff happens. This is why it's professional wrestling. All indications are that Dante's going to be fine long-term, which wonderful. That's fantastic. But overall, great match.
Yeah, terrible about Dante's injury, but this was just a blast, just craziness all over the place. My number 8 was from GCW, the World on Lucha, thanks to one Gringo Loco, who I actually do believe is booking those shows and does it. I think he does about the best of the GCW name bookers, to be honest. Dolce Tormenta and Sexy Star. This one I don't think had any hype coming in, and of course it's Sexy Star, but it's not that Sexy Star. It's very important to note that. I thought this was a great women's match. They just went at it hard. Fantastic showing by two people with very little name value in the States, especially the kind you want, aka not being mistaken for bad person Sexy Star. The first. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought this was great, and strong recommendation on that. I went 4.5 stars.
I almost put that on my list too, but in theory, looking back on it, I probably should have, but you bullied me, and I did this off the cuff, so I didn't have a written down list. So I'm going to blame you. My number 7 match. My number 7 match. I think this was from the DDT show, the DDT Goes Hollywood, and that is the East West Express versus the Moonlight Express. This might have been. This is from GCW versus DDT.
Yeah, I think that's
East West Express being Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne, Moonlight Express being Mao and Speedball Mike Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
This was awesome. They were just kicking the crap out of each other, and some flippy doos, hard hitting impact, and you could tell that they were really trying to build up East West Express. Speedball takes the loss here, which I thought was a little bit of a surprise, but overall this was great. This is not my highest tag match here, but this would be the one if you had to pick like a match. Like, I would recommend this because I love Speedball. I love Nick Wayne, and Jordan Oliver. He needs, and I'm sure people have said this before. People have said it in our office Slack before. Dude needs to go to Japan and just work for like 3 months straight and just learn how to just kick people's asses, because he has a chance to be pretty decent. He's only 23. Feels like we've been watching him on the indies for the past 10 years.
Which probably is correct. Yeah, I think he's improved a lot. I actually enjoy watching him now. I kind of dislike in a way, the GCW, let's bring in a 15-year-old and have them work a lot. And
no, so hold on. I'm with you there, but I also think that, like, as far as like bringing in young people, at least Nick Wayne is Buddy Wayne's kid, you know?
Sure. Like, and like Wayne's obviously better than the median by far of this group. And I like Billy Starks is getting good, I think, from what I've seen from her. She's not
really good for being 18.
Yeah. She's shown definite signs of improvement over the past year and I'm not watching a lot of Starks matches, but what I have seen, like, it's a step up. But yeah, I do think that, well, one, they should be in damn school, get off my damn lawn. But two, like, I just worry that, like, if they keep working in the same area, the same promotion over and over against the same small selected bunch, that they won't benefit the same as they will from from a wider range of opponents. Now Starks has moved away from that, and I think Wayne has too, but there's, like Oliver's obviously not a teenager, but he's still very young. I feel like most of his booking is through GCW. So maybe he'll get more spots now outside of that. Hopefully, I thought he had a pretty solid showing. I would put him 4th in the match that you just mentioned, but still like a pretty good 4th out of 4.
He wasn't a hindrance in the match.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, who's your 7?
My 7, I'm going back to World on Lucha, baby, because there was a 6-man tag here of Aramis, Commander, and Ray Horace against Ares, Black Taurus, and Latigo. That was fantastic. Just a really, really good trios match. And I've, for the past few years, the lucha scene has been underutilized in the US for a variety of factors, whether it be CMLL politics, the horrors of COVID, or just like AAA not being able to book well at all. But we're finally getting access to those great talents. And just looking at this year, what we got from Vikingo, Commander, Black Taurus, Laredo Kid, when his intestines aren't rupturing, and like Aramis, Ares, like all these talents. Now Galeno Del Mal, who is not in my top 10, but like if I could put like top 10 beefy boys or something, like, did you watch his match, the trios match he was in, Tyler?
Who?
Galeno Del Mal. Am I screwing up that name?
I don't think so. What
oh
show
my
was
god.
that?
He okay, so that's like that's the son of Dr. Wagner, and this was on the Hitchcock Memorial. So no, you didn't watch it, buddy. If you want to watch a 300-pound man, and I'm not exaggerating, this guy makes Black Taurus look mid, doing lucha shit. And when I say lucha shit, I don't mean basing; I mean actual lucha shit. My God, you can tell that like the stamina isn't there, but like it doesn't matter. It's basically Keith Lee level stuff, just about. It's wild. You need to hunt that down.
Okay,
yeah, but that was not my pick. I picked the other lucha trios of the match of the week. I did think about the Galeno Del Mal one, but I like this one a lot. Lucha shit is cool. Go Luchadors. The end.
My thing with lucha is I would love to see more lucha. Problem is, the language barrier for me is more particularly difficult than it is other people, because I like to be invested in stories along kind of with what's going on. And that's one of the reasons why it was hard for me to get into a lot of the non-New Japan Puro stuff initially, because I like the commentary. I'm a nerd for commentary in general. I don't like having things muted. I like to be able to hear people talk about it. But that's just kind of how my brain's wired. I grew up in the talk radio era. You did too.
Sure.
As a 13-year-old kid, I wasn't listening to music. I was listening to talk radio 24/7.
Buddy, when I was 14, I was listening to Tony Kornheiser, which explains so much about me now.
God, that explains a lot. Holy shit.
It really does. You were banned from the Tony Kornheiser show. Yeah, so like, my advice is actually to watch AAA in a sense, because one, there aren't any storylines to worry about. Like, and when they are there, they're bad. So what you should just do with AAA in particular is just find their good matches and then listen to Hugo Savanovic just scream Peligro. And
Hugo is so much fun.
He's great. He really is great. But AAA is getting English commentators, and then they're mixing their audio horribly, so you can't hear them and the crowd at the same time. So your problem is solved, obviously.
Yeah, I love watching lucha. It's some of those roadblocks have been it's more of a personal thing. It's but anyways, let's continue, because we have a Dynamite to talk about as well.
We do.
My number 6 match also contains Speedball Mike Bailey when he faced off against El Hijo del Vikingo. I believe this was on Joey Janela's spring break. And Vikingo earlier in the night wrestled against Commander at Supercard of Honor. Thinking, okay, it's like fucking 11 p.m. in California. Like, how much effort are we going to get from these guys? No, these guys kicked ass. Speedball was great. He he came out in the Tajiri cosplay, and I thought it was a really interesting match because it wasn't a luchador against Vikingo. It was like a martial artist, and how they kind of intermingled everything. I just thought this match was tremendous. I went 4.5. This was great, and I would love to see these two wrestle again.
That was my number 12 match. So obviously it's awful, no good. 4.25 stars. Can't recommend it to anyone, of course. I'm up to 6 now, I do believe.
Yep.
My number 6, previously mentioned, is Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. So what's your 6?
No, I just gave you my 6. Vikingo.
Oh,
and Speedball.
did you do your 7?
Yeah, East West Express and Moonlight Express.
All right, cool. I don't know where I am or who I am. My number 5 is Commander versus Hijo del Vikingo from Supercard of Honor. The flips, man. They did the flips. All the moves.
Tremendous. Well, I loved it. I'll end up talking about that in a little bit. My number 5, Bloodsport. Jon Moxley versus Alex Coughlin. They came out, and Moxley has that don't give a fuck attitude, and he just wants to beat the piss out of the guy in front of him. Coughlin matched it, and he was very impressive. They beat the piss out of each other, and Coughlin ends up getting choked out. But I came away very impressed. Moxley looked like he was just having a ton of fun, and someone needs to push Alex Coughlin and give him a gimmick that's worthwhile and not RoboCop.
He's going to save Sting one of these days, though, and it'll make it all worthwhile.
Oh, God, that'd be amazing.
Number 4 for me was the Reach for the Sky ladder match, which we also already talked about. So I'll hand it over to you for your number 4.
East West Express versus Motor City Machine Guns on Joey Janela's Spring Break. This match was great. You had the high flying of Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver, and then Sabin and Shelley can still do that spot, but they're so technically savvy and they're so experienced that they don't have to do all that stuff. And they were really great in working in contrast with Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne. I love watching Motor City Machine Guns. There we go. I can actually talk for once. This was a great way to put over East West Express, and they got them the belts, and now it's the GCW tag division. So who knows what their direction they're going to go with it. But this was
probably sequel pay and Miedo Extreme.
Yeah, this weekend was to make the East West Express, and I thought that GCW did a pretty dang good job of it.
I fully agree with that. They didn't make my top 10, but they did have 2 very good matches that I enjoyed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. My number 3 is a trios triangle match. I forget what show this was from because there was 1,800 of them. This was from the Hitchcock Memorial Show. I went 4 3/4 on it. Black Taurus, Commander, and Hijo del Vikingo had a hell of a trios match. It's basically the Supercard of Honor match, but also a base that's really good.
Okay. That's one I do want to watch. All right, my number 3, El Hijo del Vikingo versus Commander from Supercard of Honor. I had some issues getting it to the show on time, so I only caught the first half initially, but then when I watched the whole thing back, oh baby. I thought it was pretty impressive the air that Dante Martin would get. Commander makes him look small time, just with the amount of height and the amount of grace. Like, you could tell, like, all these flippy-do guys learn gymnastics from a young age at this point, because it's so much of what they do and how they build up their power, how they get explosiveness with their jumps and off the ropes. But you could tell Commander was a high-level gymnast at one point, with just how smoothly he just flies through the air and how he does some of his jumps. It's just so graceful and phenomenal. I love watching these guys work, and they worked so well together, Fred. Just what an incredible way to open up a show. Just give these guys 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was a blast. Just a lot of fun and a fantastic opener. My number 2 match, also from Supercard of Honor, was Eddie Kingston against Claudio Castagnoli. They really made this feel like a big match. The selling in this, I think, was particularly great. and I really enjoyed watching it. So it's nice to another beat in their story that's been going on for 15 years, and that's kind of the theme of the weekend. Between that and the long-term Cody story, unfortunately, that got screwed up pretty bad, and also the long-term Steen Erico story, which also was messed up a little bit on the way to where we are. But I love this match very much.
Yeah, it was definitely a good match. My number 2, Eddie Kingston versus Claudio Castagnoli.
Brainwave.
Yeah. One thing that really impressed me about this match, Fred, I love how they finished it. I thought they should have belted up Eddie Kingston, but unlike with WWE, I actually have faith in Tony Khan to deliver a story and to use this as a building block, kind of like how Gato used Tetsuya Naito losing at Wrestle Kingdom 12 as a bigger part of that 7-year arc to get him that title win at Wrestle Kingdom. I think that they're going to be doing something similar with Eddie Kingston, especially because Claudio didn't beat him. He just won. He won with a roll-up. He didn't put him out. He didn't finish him. He caught him. And I think that's a really important nugget to this story, because now you're going to have Eddie thinking, I had this guy. And he even kind of said so in that post-match presser where he just dropped a bunch of F-bombs and mentioned how MJF gets 30 minutes and he can have 5. But Kingston had Claudio on the ropes. He had him. And he just got caught.
Yeah.
And that is a really important finish for the projectile of this reign. And I think we may see a long one from Claudio Castagnoli and Eddie Kingston ending up challenging him relatively soon. I don't know how they're going to structure this, or if Ring of Honor is only going to do 4 pay-per-views a year or whatnot. But I think that's the long-term play, and I think they set it up really well.
Yeah, I loved it, and I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Mm-hmm. What's your number 1?
My number 1 was the Big E offer match. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther just slapping the hell out of each other.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
I look. You can give me all the shitty booking in WWE you want, and I'm sure Vince McMahon will be working on that shortly. But I gotta say that if once a month I just get some combination of these guys beating the hell out of another member of that group, I'll watch it. Doesn't matter. This match was great. They just killed each other. I ain't saying Michael Cole is great or anything at this point in time as an announcer, but he's, one of the things is that they have decreased the announcing bullshit by like 10%. Not enough, but they have decreased it a little bit. But him just happily giggling during this match as they're killing each other and trying to cave in their chests, I think really kind of captured my feeling on this match. It was just a joy to watch these 3 men try to murder each other. And I thought it was easily the best match of the week. I didn't think anything was really on the same level as it, despite having several matches that I liked. This was the 1 5-star match of the weekend.
I almost went 5. I only gave it 4 3/4 because I'm a damn coward. But I also have 6 5-star matches on the year, so you guys can shove it. I thought this was great. I liked what Joe Lanza said on the Patreon WrestleMania review show that they do, that they kind of gave away the finish a little bit, and I agreed. When they had McIntyre and Sheamus really go after each other, and then it's an old WWE trope, the guy comes in and capitalizes. I don't care. These guys beat the fuck out of each other. It was great. These guys rule. Like Drew McIntyre is apparently done with WWE. There's some mixed reactions from people I've talked to of what do you want to see Drew McIntyre in AEW? Yeah, I do. Hell yeah. Like he doesn't even have to come in and be a star. Just come in, be a mid-card guy. Work your way up. He worked with these guys on the indies right before he re-signed with WWE. He's one of them. Like he was the chosen one in WWE, and then they cut him, and then he went and proved himself on the indies. He was in Evolve. He won titles. He won the Impact World Championship from Bobby Lashley. Like this is a guy that has the respect of these people, and he can work. He's not going to go in with, from my perspective, he's not going in with a holier than thou attitude as far as WWE is so much better. I think this could be a great fit, especially because AEW could use a little bit more size in their ranks, because a lot of their bigger stars are on the smaller side. Not necessarily saying they're small, but when you have a guy that looks like Drew McIntyre and would be that, like, he's that good.
And he's charismatic too.
Yeah. Don't give him $10 million, but bring him in.
Yeah. I think if you had him in like the upper mid card mix, that would be perfectly acceptable. If Drew McIntyre is a free agent, and I haven't really seen any reporting confirming it, but then again, I've only been watching wrestling and not really following the news too much this week outside of the obvious stuff. I would jump on the chance to make an offer to him. But hell, if he's just going to bounce around the indies or go to New Japan or even Impact or something like that, which would be weird, like I'd still be happy to follow his career, because I think he's a great talent.
Yeah, I think so too. Man, I will say, I still want to see Sheamus go to Japan.
Oh,
just
I worry that
Japan, please.
I worry that it's just too late in the game for that. I mean, he is 45. I'm not sure that he would want to do a G1, but man, could you imagine Sheamus in a G1? That would be pretty damn fun. A proper G1, not last year's format.
Oh, please. I'm in. That'd be kick-ass, but we digress. Overall, I thought it was a pretty fun WrestleMania weekend.
There was some bullshit, but I mean, like, it delivered, certainly in some high water mark matches. And even if you ignore like the WWE and Ring of Honor ones, like if you're just going to go pure indies, I think GCW occasionally offered some really good stuff. I thought that the Hitchcock Super Show may have been the best show of the weekend. Some really great stuff on there. And creative booking. And I mean, Prestige Wrestling had themselves a decent little show from what I heard. Circle 6 even managed to have a couple good matches, apparently. Along with
Zachary Wentz hour-long show apparently was the best of the weekend from Circle 6.
Cool. Good for them. Good for that. Because it sure as hell wasn't the Cannabis Cup.
Oh, the Cannabis Cup. That's I can't help but laugh. I will ask you this. Did you watch Maki Deathkill versus Boosie?
I did not. That one did not appeal to me, I'll admit.
I would watch it.
Oh boy.
I thought I had fun. Like Effie and Alley Catch, they can kick rocks. Nick Gage can't really move. Maki Ito taking the pizza cutter. Like, she was all in on this. And I thought that element was a lot of fun. And like, look, this is going to be like, you get your old grumps like Joe Lanza. They're going to hate this. I thought it was fun and it was unique. And I thought that's what made it as fun as it was. They should have picked better opponents than Effie and Alley Catch, but it was a really unique tag team that I think they really took advantage of and maximizing.
I think Tokyo Joshi Pro has a very good roster. I actually started watching it last year, and I was impressed by not just like the talent of the top people, but how much depth there is. Like Maki Ito, I think is an actually good wrestler. Miyo Yamashita is arguably the best women's wrestler outside of Stardom. Shoko Nakajima is really good. Then you get into the mid card. I mean, you've got Yuka Sakazaki over there sometimes, and she's obviously great. As we saw with the Athena match, which was short but still very enjoyable. I mean, just so much talent there. You've got Mizuki, and her tag team is very good. I think it's a great promotion right now, and I enjoy checking in with it when I get the chance.
I need to try and get some Joshi in my life too, but with football, I just don't have the time. I'll pop in on stuff, but I don't have time to follow another promotion. I really don't. Yeah. But speaking of promotions, we are an AEW centric podcast. Let's get to AEW. This was a very interesting show, and we had the announcement which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it was what started the show. And you have Juice Robinson already in the ring. Ricky Starks comes out, and then as Starks about to enter the ring, you just hear Bullet Club, and then the switchblade drop, and nothing on the screen, but you kind of hear some crowd reaction, and out comes Jay White, and they kick Ricky Starks' ass, and Jay White says he is all elite, baby. And now we, in theory, have Bullet Club in 3 promotions. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think Jay White could fit in very well with AEW, and I think he's a strong addition. I'm still kind of shocked that WWE didn't pick him up. He felt like tailor-made for what they do. They could have renamed him, I don't know, Josephus Caucus or something, and then put him through NXT and pretend they developed him. Yeah, I'm excited that he's in. It should be great for the company and should lead to some very exciting stuff. I think the biggest question with him is how is he going to handle the majority or the primary number of his matches, as I combine those 2 words, being not 30-minute, epics, but 10 or 15-minute TV, matches. Because he didn't do a lot of those before, and what he did do was Impact, where he was definitely giving the old low effort. But yeah, it's a very interesting situation.
Very interesting. I'm excited to see how it continues to evolve. Then Tony Schiavone interviews Chris Jericho backstage, and in the process of it, Jericho says, "You punked out Daniel Garcia, and I had to put a stop to it, Adam Cole," kind of continuing to lay groundwork for their feud that's up and coming. But Keith Lee interrupted, and Keith Lee challenged Jericho to a match next week on Dynamite and said, "Maybe I'll teach you a thing or two about respect, because basically your entire AEW career has been about disrespect." And I think this was awesome. Keith Lee with the gray, I think, makes him look like even more of a killer.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, it's weird that, like, I think it just pops with Keith Lee because, like, his size and, like,
it's the haircut with it too.
It's also the face and just him, like, Keith Lee could kill you, but now it feels like Keith Lee is going to kill you even more so than before.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really nice subtle touch. And now Keith Lee doesn't have to worry about dyeing his hair and beard all the time, which is going to save him money and time. It's a win all around.
Yeah, and frankly, what I think will happen, my prediction for next week, I'm pretty confident of this, unlike the Mark Briscoe Samoa Joe match from Supercard of Honor, where I considered gloating about being right when really I was just like, I guess they could beat him. I think next week is you're going to have Jericho cheat to win, and then the JAS come out to beat up Keith Lee, and who should make the save but Adam Cole, and that'll continue their feud and possibly align Keith Lee as Cole's backup or just loose affiliates or what. I'm not sure, but I think that's pretty obvious what is going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, this company's fun right now. It's not perfect, but it's fun. Speaking of fun, House of Black defending their AEW World Trios Championships against the Best Friends, and House of Black picks up the win. But the best part of this, Sue pulls up in the minivan. I love that. It's just such a little thing, and it's absolutely stupid, and nobody cares. But it's fun. Like, Trent he's a dweeb. Like, that's his character. He is just a fun-loving goofball. So his mom drives him to the ring. That's fun. Like,
I like Sue.
Best friends. Like, they're cornballs anyway, so it doesn't really hurt them at all. It's just an element of fun on the show. I know it's a bridge too far for some people, and I get that, and you're okay to be a curmudgeon here. But I think this is good.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I'm not going to get too upset if people don't like it. But it's like a 20-second bit and a once-a-year deal. I mean, you can cope with it. It's fine. But yeah, I always pop for, the flagship has always had Slex, the business. Now we have Sue, the mom, popping up every once in a while. And
Slex the business.
I enjoy Sue. I'm always happy when I see her. So.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. The match was good too.
I like this match. I thought it was a nice little 3 3/4.
It was a great TV title
easy
match.
Watch. It was, yeah. And or thumbs up.
Buddy Matthews hit the curb stomp for the pin on Chuck Taylor. I thought it was really nice that Buddy got the win and not
Malachi.
Not Malachi or Brody King. And I thought that was noteworthy. What that means moving forward, I don't know, but I think it's always noteworthy when the weakest member of the group gets the win instead of one of the stronger members. So that's always a good thing. Footage, just a little blip was shown of Christian Cage and Luchasaurus with a red backdrop looking menacingly into the camera. Did you think this was a Brood tease?
No, I didn't think it was a Brood tease. I understand why you bring it up, but I didn't get that at all.
I don't necessarily mean that Edge is coming, but almost like, hey,
would you be saying Edge is edging?
No, Blink-182 says that.
Okay.
Well, they just released a single called Edging.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to see their concert next month, so I've been listening to that link. But no, you had Edge with the Brood entrance, and I thought this was more of a tip of the cap and an acknowledgement necessarily than Edge is coming. It could be. I just don't know.
I just thought it was monster heel looking cool with Christian there. That's all I took from it. So
fair. All right, we have more up. AEW Women's World Championship match. Jamie Hayter with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defeating Riho. I thought this rocked. I gave this 4
4. I thought this was the best match of the night.
Riho throwing Jamie Hayter with Germans and dragon suplexes. Like that, it was a nice little touch because my wife was watching and I asked her, I'm like, hey, like, do you take Riho seriously? No. Like, she don't look like a professional wrestler. She weighs like my legs.
She's literally announced it. Literally announced it at 98 pounds.
My legs weigh more than Riho. Like I'm a large human, but that's not good. But no, this was awesome. They worked really well around the size disparity, and I thought they played into the match really well. This was just great.
Yeah, I thought this was a blast. I like Riho a lot. Like, I understand the size thing, obviously. I mean, it's easy to see, but when she starts working, I think it's easy to forget about it because she lays it in. She, does cool stuff. I like her and her shit a lot. So,
yeah, this was awesome. Renee Paquette, backstage with the Outcast. Ruby Soho, congrats on your successful title defense, Jamie. Don't get too comfortable. One of us will become the AEW Women's Champion. I mentioned this in the office Slack last night. I think the eventual end match here is going to be Jamie Hayter versus Saraya. And we'll just talk about it now because it's going to get announced later in the show. AEW is going to be running All In at Wembley Stadium Sunday, August 27th, 1 week before the scheduled date of All Out on Labor Day weekend. Hayter's going to be in a prominent match. They have like Britt Baker feels like the bigger match, but with how this Outcast story is going, it feels like a long-term play. I think the match is going to end up being Jamie Hayter versus Saraya for that title because you can do Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker later. They've been working this story for a long time. That's been put on the back burner because of this Outcast feud, and that's kind of what I'm thinking here as far as the direction with one of us is going to be holding that women's championship.
Yeah, it feels like it's building to that, and or it could possibly be like a four corners match with the Outcasts against Hayter, and they could do the whole overcoming the odds shit. And but yeah, I like this quite a bit. I thought this was a reasonably good promo, and I'm kind of excited to see what we're going to get out of it.
Next up, we had Jericho Appreciation Society, Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, and Jake Hayter on the ramp. And I asked my wife what she thought of Daddy Magic. Do you know what makes Daddy Magic's nipples hard? I asked her about that, and she's like, it was one of those moments where you're just absolutely embarrassed to be a wrestling fan, because it just, from somebody who doesn't watch it, it's just like, what
I think it's
fuck? It's great for us. Like, I think it's hilarious, but it's an out of context thing. It's like, cringy. But so it was, the Acclaimed came out and rapped no, that they're not going to join. But then Angelo Parker, judging by rap, it sounds like you want to fight together. Perhaps Parker might have misinterpreted the rap. Parker said he got a match for him and Menard and the Acclaimed to team together on Rampage. This is going to be drawn out a little bit, and I think it's going to be 2.0 versus the Acclaimed on the pay-per-view. That's my guess.
Yeah, or possibly a Grand Slam or whatever. But yeah, I think they're pretty obviously building to that.
Dude, Grand Slam's in 6 months.
What's the in-between show? There's an in-between show coming up, isn't there?
So you have Double or Nothing in May. Then
I guess it's just Double or Nothing then. Never mind. I keep thinking that there is
Fight for the Fall in the summer.
I keep thinking that there's something before Double or Nothing, but there isn't. So I'm good at talking.
I actually think like this week was kind of that midway point between pay-per-views. I don't think they're building up for like a bigger midpoint show, especially because I don't think MJF's defending the title.
Right. That is a good point.
Speaking of MJF, let's talk about MJF Day and how MJF might be one of the biggest Frank Sinatra fans in the history of the planet.
That was Louis Prima, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, it was that kind of lounge music. Like maybe I'm getting like my comp wrong, but it had a Frank Sinatra Rat Pack vibe.
Yeah, it's that swing. Yeah,
it was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought that they did it well. You have a massive heel in MJF, but he's a babyface to these fans, and they played it up well enough where it didn't ruin his credibility as a heel because he was still a shitbag, but he was just able to be himself and have fun in front of his hometown crowd. And this is how you book wrestlers in front of their hometown fans.
Oh yeah. I thought this was pretty cool. I thought it was a great segment, actually. This and the Riho hater thing, were my two favorite bits. I just had an absolute blast with this. I thought it was a cool way to work in the, his ability to sing, and he cut a great promo, which was right in the babyface, divide or babyface heel for the hometown crowd. And I don't know, I just thought this was really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable. And then at the very end, you had Jungle Boy disguised as one of the band members, and he and MJF had a pull-apart brawl, leading into the Spanish God Sammy Guevara versus Commander. This was good. I thought, like, maybe it was just me not being as invested into the match, but I thought these two could have had a lot better in them. But it wasn't the match that was the big thing. It got Sammy a win, which was important for the story of the Pillars going to wrestle each other for the title. It was setting up the post-match. And I want to read a couple quotes. This was, I found very funny coming from a heel, but it works within the context of this story. Yeah. Because All Access is going to play in this, and I'll mention that in a little bit. Look, Tony, I just did something the world champion doesn't do. Wrestle. What was that? I was just watching American Idol. And then he goes on and be like, you lied, you cheated, you manipulated your way to the top. And honestly, Tony, speaking to Tony Schiavone, I'm almost jealous of it. But who are you, Max? You're Cody's friend and then you're not. You're Tony's friend and then you're not. You're in the inner circle and then you're not. You sold your soul. I built this, meaning him, brick by brick, moment by moment. I put my heart and soul into this. You can boo me. You can cheer me. I'm not going anywhere. I love AEW. I'm not using this place to go anywhere else. I met my wife here. I may have had pay-per-views. Screw Darby Allin. Screw Jungle Boy. Screw MJF. This is good.
Yeah. I thought this was pretty good, but I thought the best was obviously with the MJF stuff. I did see some people complain about the length of it. It didn't bother me, but that's just, yeah.
I want to ask you about this because we know that Sammy Guevara's had a lot of heat backstage. It feels like they are using All Access to babyface him.
Yes. And not like traditional wrestling babyface him, but like make him acceptable to the crowd. I think that's definitely what they're trying to do. Other than like getting Adam Cole over, I think that's the main goal of the show, to be honest. I think, it's reasonable. I do think that the whole crowd turning on him thing has stalled his momentum to some extent, unfortunately, and they've really struggled with that ever since.
Yeah. But I think that they're starting to kind of get the back. The crowd it's not go away boos. It's just, we don't like you boos. And I think that's an improvement. Next up, FTW Championship match. Hook versus the Firm's All Ego Ethan Page. Yeah, this is fine. And no complaints.
A little gimmick match, It
was fine. It was up after that. Nigel McGuinness introduced AEW CEO and GM Tony Khan, who announced the Wembley Stadium show. And it's not the home of Fulham, which is only like 30,000 fans. This baby, I could see over 100,000. This is an ambitious show, but it's good. You're going to draw from Europe, where it's very easy to travel to and from. You're going to get travel fans that want to be at a show this big. This is the first time they're running a stadium bigger than 25,000. This is a monumental task for AEW to fill the stadium. My guess is it'll end up being some kind of super show with a lot of New Japan talent. And I bet they get 75,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, the size of the stadium is absolutely massive. The soccer setup is 90,000. For concerts, it's 75 to 90,000 seated and 15,000 standing. It'll be fascinating just how big they go. They're not going to be going here and even aiming for 50, I don't think. They've got to be going over that. And it's very possible they'll end up with the highest attendance of the year off this show.
I mean, if I remember correctly, WWE SummerSlam 92 did 65 to 70 paid. I would expect that to be kind of the goal, but it wouldn't shock me, especially considering the state of European wrestling, where these fans, and especially how Europe was just decimated by Me Too, that they would want to go to a show where they can feel comfortable. And I think this would be that show.
And it's also important to note that the current Wembley Stadium opened in 2007. So it's actually a different building than what they had in 92, and probably a bigger one. It looks like the capacity on the original was apparently 82,000, so roughly the same. But yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And very few people who outside of England know this building better than the Khan family, as the Jaguars play a game there pretty much every single year. Yep. So that's something to be aware of. What's hilarious about this next match, it was a trios match. Blackpool Combat Club defeated and listed on the AEW website 3 opponents. The jobbers didn't even get names. And this was just a squash. It was to set up a Bryan Danielson. And he was an asshole. It was great. He says, "We are the only professional wrestlers in this building tonight. Hell, after what I've seen this week, we are the only real professional wrestlers in all of damn America tonight." And he gouges Hangman Page's forehead with a flathead screwdriver. And this rocked.
Nice camera work. Nice camera work to obscure what they're doing by shooting basically around the back of the heels. But this ruled. It was just fantastic healing.
Yeah, it was. Main event time. I have nothing to say about this other than it was the Guns versus FTR, titles versus careers. The Guns tried to get disqualified every 5 seconds. FTR said, no. Let us beat them. And they beat them. They won the titles in a pretty nothing match that was mainly rooted in storyline about the Guns being shitbags. But they came out to 50 Cent. And I thought that was a nice touch, the Long Island connection. And then you had Mark Briscoe come out at the very end of the show, but they ran out of time, so they really didn't get to see the full embrace. And
yeah,
I thought that was a nice touch too.
Yeah, it was cool to send him out. It was kind of a little counterpoint at the end of Supercard of Honor, where Mark Briscoe came out, or I should say the Reach for the Sky ladder match, where Mark Briscoe came out and embraced the Lucha Bros. And this match was possibly the best of the guns, and also definitely, I think, the worst the FTR's had in a non-squash situation in AEW. It was fine. It was very like 1980s JCP kind of style stuff, with storytelling of the heels cheating. I got to get one thing off my chest here. There was one thing that really annoyed me in this match, which was the belt doesn't change on a DQ thing. Like, that rule is completely Vince McMahon way to, Vince Senior, really, I think. Lazy way to set up challengers for Bruno Sammartino. Have him lose a match to the heel by DQ, and then the rematch comes. It's the pits in 2023. It's been ruined by other companies, but I just would prefer if AEW would just bring in the titles will change on a DQ, because logically there's no reason for it not to, and work stuff that way. But that's my take.
It was good. This was overall a pretty good show. I really don't have any complaints about it.
I thought it was like an 8 out of 10 show. Like, not the best, but like rather strong, I think. Again, the women's match was the best on the night, and it's been a little bit since we could say that. I enjoyed the healing of Danielson. MJF Day was really fun, and just a blast. Just really fun stuff.
Yeah, really fun stuff. Overall, I think we're on the right track here.
Yeah, the company feels like it's in the right direction. I like the storylines they're telling. I even like the Ethan Page Matt Hardy one. Less Matt Hardy wrestling and more Matt Hardy like conniving against Stokely and Ethan Page. That works for me. As like a total mid-card, like 6-minute limit on matches kind of deal. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the arc of the promotion right now.
Me too. Any overall thoughts before we get out of here, Fred?
Just a couple quick news notes. There is a new episode of Ring of Honor tonight, of course, and the card has some pretty cool matches up on top. It has Shibata defending the Pure Championship against Christopher Daniels, and Athena defending the women's against Miyo Yamashita. There's also Darius Martin against Jay Lethal, Brian Cage against Ortiz, and Tony Nese versus Takeshita, which, if that gets any time at all, could be cool. And also Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers against the Workhorsemen and Shane Taylor, which also could be fun if it gets time. It may not, though. Rampage on Friday is followed by Battle of the Belts, which has such preliminary match, or such shining matches, is what I was trying to say, as QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs against the Lucha Bros. Because we need that. My God, I know that, there's a lot of like, well, Clash of the Champions wasn't big matches all the time and so on and so forth. But man, it'd be nice if it was just even decent matches. Like, as far as build, the Rampage and Battle of the Belts are not strongly booked shows. And we talk about that a lot, but yeah.
It is what it is.
This sure is.
I think overall, I think AEW as a promotion is in a good spot.
Yeah,
and it's really hard to complain about the promotion as a whole. But I do like the fact that we have some real programs. I'm excited to see what this Blackpool Combat Club thing is all about. And look, we're in for a fun summer, Fred. We really are.
Now, one thing I do want to bring up I don't want to go into it too in depth or anything, but with the return of Vince fully to WWE, no masks, no bullshit about him just hanging out in Gorilla, being a buddy, blah blah blah. AEW does get a competitive advantage back in terms of creative, and I think that I was never super impressed with what Triple Paul was doing over in WWE, but at least was like borderline competent at worst for the most part. You know, he wasted a lot of money bringing back Bray Wyatt and the Infinity Gauntlet of geeks that just never did anything in there. But like people got super excited about like Top Dollar returning, and for God knows what reason. But you know, the company at least seemed to not be actively hateful towards its fans, even when it did dumb stuff like having Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes lose. But I think based off of what the post-Mania Raw was and what we know about Vince as a booker in, you know, the modern day, that there's going to be some really dumb shit over in WWE, and I think that can only benefit AEW.
Yeah, I agree completely. This is going to be a very interesting dynamic to see how things continue to evolve with Vince McMahon back in power. But I will say this. Fuck Vince McMahon. And we're going to end the show on that. You can follow the show on Twitter at GoodBadHungee. You can email the pod at hungeepod@gmail.com. You can follow myself on Twitter at TheRealForno. You can follow my Vikings work at The Vikings Wire or at Vikings First Skull for my YouTube channel. You can follow Fred at Flagrant Wrestling, R, not a W. You can find a link to Fred's Patreon and my YouTube channel in the show notes. And make sure, if you are listening on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed, that you are subscribing to the Good, the Bad, and the Hungee solo feed so you can continue to help us grow, because we don't want to just be number one in Turkey. We want to be number one in other countries too, because we are trying to build this from the ground up and be the best wrestling podcast for AEW fans in the world. Thank you all for listening, and have a wonderful day. Fuck Vince McMahon.
See y'all.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and Zero One. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.